Spoiler alert, Superman dies. But don't worry, he also returns. In the case of the death and return of Superman, it's all in the name. With Justice League hitting home video this week, I wanted to go back to the first time that the Man of Steel bit the dust and revisit the 16-bit classic. Now is the time to turn away if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and ending in the death and return of Superman. This is Game Over, the early years. Have you ever had one of those days where everything seemed to go wrong? Well, that's nothing compared to the day Superman is about to have. First, the Underworlders take down the power grid, and then Superman discovers that Doomsday is headed to Earth, and he's the last line of defense. It's the biggest throwdown this planet has ever seen, and it's conveniently happening right in front of the Daily Planet building. After what looked to be a lopsided fight, Doomsday manages to rally at the end, and both he and Superman simultaneously punch each other to death. That's right, Superman is dead. We see Lois Lane holding his lifeless body next to the rubble, crying and worried about the safety of this planet. Who will defend us now? As it turns out, there are 4 contenders ready to take over for Superman. The first one is a half-man, half-machine version of Superman. The next is a somewhat changed version of Superman. There's also the literal Man of Steel, like he's made of steel. And don't forget about young Superboy. Everybody wants to know, who is the real Superman? Spoiler, it's none of these guys. The adventure kicks off with Cyborg Superman flying through the forest and shooting down aliens. He locates Doomsday's body and hurls it into space. That way nobody gets any bright ideas and tries to bring him back to life. Back in Metropolis, changed Superman comes face to face with the literal Man of Steel, who explains that it takes more than power to be Superman. It takes humanity and compassion. Yeah, tell that to Zack Snyder. Meanwhile, an enormous spacecraft appears over Coast City, and then completely destroys it. This prompts changed Superman to go and investigate, in which he finds that Cyborg Superman is at the bottom of this. The two Supermen fight, but the Cyborg has the upper hand. Now he has his sights set on young Superboy. Conveniently, Superboy is already en route to what used to be Coast City. The two fight it out, but once again, the Cyborg comes out on top. He captures Superboy and reveals his evil plans to completely rebuild the planet. Oh, and he also renamed the city from Coast City to Engine City, which is a little confusing since it's still technically on the coast. Anyway, Superboy has been captured and announces that he must find a way to escape. And then he mysteriously does. This is never actually explained in the game.
This is CNN Breaking News.
I interrupt this confusing storyline to bring you this breaking news. Something has happened at the Fortress of Solitude. We don't currently know what, but all reports indicate that something is happening there. We'll break in when there are more details. Now, back to Superboy. We see him flying through the air and fighting aliens for some reason. I'm still a little confused on how he was able to escape. Is that explained in the comics?
This is CNN Breaking News.
I've just been told that we have more breaking news to report. We can confirm that there is now a 5th Superman on the scene. This one claims to be the real Superman, but is dressed all in black. We aren't sure what to make of this yet, but we'll update the story as more information comes in. So apparently both Man of Steel and Superboy got the memo that Superman is back because they show up just in time to explain that there's an evil Terminator Superman on the loose trying to destroy the planet. They all agree to work together and tackle different parts of the assault. First we have Superboy swooping in to destroy the missiles launched by Cyborg Superman. Then the team decides to destroy Engine City's Engine core. But oh no, it's powered by kryptonite. So Man of Steel decides to go in alone.
This is CNN Breaking News.
This just in, we have an update to some breaking news we've been watching all afternoon. People near the Fortress of Solitude have confirmed that there is some kind of regenerated eradicator streaking towards Engine City. Nobody knows what to make of it. Speaking of things that are confusing, Cyborg Superman ends up shooting both Black Suit Superman and Changed Superman, which somehow combines them into the usual Blue Suit Superman. Of course, this turns out to be a really bad idea because the real Superman proceeds to kick Cyborg Superman's ass and save the day. Here's what happens next. So yeah, the ending does explain that the regenerated Eradicator coming from the Fortress of Solitude is what brought Superman back to full strength. But it doesn't bother to answer any of the other burning questions. Like, how did Superboy escape? Why did Black Suit Superman and Changed Superman suddenly merge to become Blue Suited Superman? And why didn't they just create that big engine on some unused island instead of destroying Coast City? None of this makes any sense. Oh well, at least it's still more coherent than the last two Superman movies. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, The Early Years. So here's the question I have for you. How would you fix video game Superman curse? Look, let's be honest here. Superman has had a bad go of it over the last few decades. From Superman 64 to that horrible open world action game from Electronic Arts, it just seems like nobody can get the Man of Steel right. So what would you do to solve this problem? Let me know in the comments below. In other news, I had some computer issues last week, so expect more reviews than usual this week. We have Bleed 2, The Fall Part 2, Xenon Valkyrie Plus, Under Night in Birth, A Case of Distrust, Apron Cyberstorm, Mercenary Kings Reloaded Edition, and like a dozen other games. I'm drowning here. So I recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.